real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
All dressed up and someplace to go.
Yeah, where are you going?
I've got a charity event down at the Hockey Hall of Fame. Calm Kids.
Cool.
It's a program that provides underserved communities kids with laptops
Oh, cool.
and kind of helps them balance out the competitive field of the digital world,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, look at you.
So-
Look great. Some days you're in here in the toque and the hoodie. Today you're looking like Don Draper. I never know what I'm going to get to
I
today.
don't think for 1 second I still look as good as the Buffalo Sabres did last night.
I thought they were putting you into the Hall of Fame with that outfit. Holy hell, Kyper, looking like $1 million.
Yeah, clearly we don't shop at the same store.
Yeah, no,
Sammy?
I got my Columbia sweater on and my sweatpants on back here, but
Yeah.
I clean up well, boys. You know that.
You do,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And as soon as
It just doesn't happen very often.
soon as you start getting an annual salary instead of being paid by the hour, we're gonna get you a new suit. I'll go shopping with you.
You don't know how close to the truth that is.
Yeah, the old paid by likes program here is
If I get to 100, I get dinner tonight, guys.
click it.
Leafs drop a 5-2 decision, and we know what kind of season it's been for the Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Buffalo Sabres, but at no time in yesterday's show were we expecting that outcome,
Which is
last night.
stupid because it's happened before. I would think we would be like,
the question is why,
I don't know.
right? Why?
That's
What
like-
is with the Buffalo Sabres and just owning the Leafs this year?
Got a theory?
Yeah, No, I don't.
Yes.
But what I will say is that going into the game last night, I didn't really say this on air, but I was expecting a kind of Leafs dominance performance again because we've seen so many in a row. They played the Habs. They only won by 1, but they kicked the crap out of them on Saturday night. They've been playing good teams, beating them. Had a good performance against a bad team on Saturday night. Thought last night was going to be finally the time when they go in and they just looked like they did in the outdoor game. They looked like the game they did against them with the first game back with fans was against Buffalo, and they lost, I think, 5-2 or 5-1 to that game. So they've lost some real stinkers, and I don't know, maybe it's the size they have, speed, Craig Anderson. I don't know what the hell it is, but they see that jersey.
They're not a great team, right? I mean, I've seen their record, but for whatever reason that gives the Leafs fits. Was it going into the game last night that Sheldon Keefe had a quote where he said, like, these games like this have given us fits. We've had problems in games like this. Like, he saw this coming.
Playing down to your opponent. That's the favorite tagline
Right.
when it comes to Toronto recently against the likes of Montreal,
Right.
Buffalo.
Yeah, and it has been a bit of a trend. We know they got up for all those big games. They played their divisional games and all that. And yeah.
Before we get into the Leafs, can we just praise a couple of guys they have in the Sabres?
You know what? Save it. We'll touch on Buffalo because I do want to give them their due credit, especially Granato, who's done, I think, a fantastic job. And proof is in the pudding. I think watching this team, I took the game in live, boys.
Yeah.
I got invited by a good friend who did me no favors in the third period because he pulled me out of the 6 rows up where I was really enjoying the game and started watching the game on like a 13-inch television at the Shear Club with a bottle of tequila. And I'm like,
God.
what is wrong? Like, if you're listening, and I won't drop your name, you are a very bad man.
Yeah, Mr.
Very bad man.
Yeah, Mr. Bezos, that was a bad call. That was not Kyper's.
Right?
Yeah.
But what did I really miss? And maybe it looked better on the 13 or 14-inch screen because
it probably looked better at tequila.
It got uglier.
Yeah.
As my night did, so did the third period for the Leafs.
It just felt like, waiting for the Leafs to turn it on the way they did against the Flyers. They had that bad night in Philly, and it was like, okay, well, this is a team that can kind of flip the switch and go, all right, boys, we've fallen behind. Let's find it. there was no let's finding it really from that performance last night. Do you want to go to Sheldon on that, Sammy? Which clip do you like best?
Let's just start out with on the game to get his opinion on it.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on the game?
It wasn't good.
it's up there with the Brad May. Well, it's not good.
I told you guys at yesterday's show, these 10 games are going to be challenging for Sheldon, and I'm sure many other teams, but different reasons for different outcome. But this one, for me, is going to be challenging for Sheldon. And I listened to his comments, and we've got a few more, but even Sheldon's energy's down. Even Sheldon doesn't really have, a pinpoint. You can hear Sheldon a little tired.
Yeah.
And fatigued.
Well, it's, I don't know how you time it with peaking at the right time. Like, is this too early still before you want your team going in the right direction? I do feel like there's a lull here because it doesn't really matter where they finish in the standings. Maybe it does. And that's under or overstated, but I just don't feel like it matters. It feels like they need a kick in the pants right now. It's a lull. They're allowed to have it, but it was disappointing last night. Why don't we go into what why the Sabres specifically give them trouble? Do you want to go there next?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with that.
Because we'll have a few comments as well.
Yes.
Oh, it's 4 games against this team. We've been no shows in all 4s. So it's hard to pinpoint. It seems like maybe every year there's one team that just for whatever reason you just don't have your game in against them. This has been the team. It's probably been about a month or so, really, I guess, since the outdoor game against that same team where we've had a game that we just weren't good in. Maybe Philadelphia as well, but we found our game in the third period and got a win. That's what we're hoping for tonight. Obviously didn't get it.
Size of the team, speed of the team.
We're not any more smarter off of that clip.
Didn't learn anything there.
No, I didn't really learn anything there. What from your view did you see last night that's making Buffalo awfully successful against the Toronto Maple Leafs? And as we said, at some point between now and game 1, whoever the Leafs plays, it will be, okay, who do you know in Buffalo? Who can you talk to in Buffalo? And who can explain to us what has made them so successful against the Toronto Maple Leafs? Because we need to copy that. We need to duplicate that. What are the top 3 things?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a great call. The things that stood out to me are Keith and them being a possession team.
We had that one.
Okay, well, let's do that clip too.
Okay.
And I'll carry on.
Well, I mean, they've defended well. They've outnumbered us on the puck, but we've made it really easy on them. We've been complete no-shows physically in these games. So they have a big team with lots of skill, and they're good in possession. So when you don't compete, you're not engaged physically, and you don't execute on offense, you're not going to have the puck much. Then they have it a lot, and that plays into their hands. And it's just the way she goes.
It's just the way she goes. Him and Kyle.
That's sheer exhaustion right there out of the man.
I wonder if him and Kyle had a bet at some point where he's like, you got to mix in a way she goes into one of your post-game press conferences, because that's what Kyle mixed it in. He said,
I've heard Duba say the S-Wins are coming, which is a standard
Trailer Park Boys
reference too.
I thought that's interesting though, and I think when I'm watching that game last night, it looked like a team that was big and had the puck a lot, and it looked like a team that was not interested in engaging in another team's size.
See, to me, 10 games in the season or 10 games remaining in the season, that's a bit of an issue for me, JB.
Yeah.
That he says we made it real easy on them physically.
Mm-hmm.
That would bother the crap out of me.
Yeah. If you were in that dressing room hearing it from your coach.
It would bother me if I'm Kyle or Brendan Shanahan, absolutely.
Yeah, certainly knowing what's coming. God, it's the old motivation thing too. But like we talked about that team, Buffalo has, the young guys that I would say are going to be a part of this rebuild, this next core of the Sabres, are gigantic. Like Tage Thompson is huge. What's he, 6'7"? Owen Power now is 6'6". Even Rasmus Dahlin is 6'3". Alex Tuck is 6'3". Like this is a big team. Dylan Cousins is 6'3". Their main players are very big. And I don't know if that gives Toronto a bit of a hard time. God, I tweeted about this last night, and I get people responding to me about like, oh, size doesn't matter. Size is just this.
Oh my God.
You know, like, oh my God, watch one physical contact sport. Watch football, watch basketball, watch hockey. Of course, size is important. Being big is an advantage. And those guys, you know, I don't know that those guys are unbelievable players, core pieces that are going to help you win a Stanley Cup, but they're good players and they're big. I mean, maybe that's part of it. Sammy, I know you think that Buffalo Sabres team is actually going to be good soon. I'm a little less bullish, but
I don't think you can overstate what adding Owen Power does to a team. Like, that's a guy that's in college. He's a guy that's a first overall pick. You don't have him all year. And then you just imagine being one of those guys on that team. You just insert a 6'5", smooth skating defenseman who plays 20 minutes in his NHL debut, and he's just going to be on your top pair for the next 15 years. It's just, the guy is unbelievable.
The part of the game, the most important part of last night's game, watching from 6 rows up off the ice to watch him play, you would have thought he had been in the league for 5 or 6 years.
No panic, eh?
20 minutes, nothing great, but everything quietly very good, very solid, great foundation. I don't know what he's going to end up being. A Hedman or a Pietrangelo?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but whatever it is, the writing's on the wall. It's going to be very good.
Yeah.
And you didn't even mention Samuelson, who was like an octopus last night.
Yeah, well, he's
right? There's another big moose.
What's he, 6'6" or something? He's a monster too.
And I'm watching this back end like gobble up the Leafs.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'4", 227 pounds. Matthias Samuelson.
How old's he? Where did he come from? Why? I don't.
I think
22 years old.
his dad played in the NHL.
Oh,
I went to training camp with his dad, if I'm not mistaken, with Shell Samuelson.
So, you know, here's my thing with the Sabres. Every team has good players coming, and the good teams have less good players coming because they've been good. So the Leafs don't have a wave of the same guys coming, but they have other players that are in the NHL who are very good. I just think we get really excited about teams that start to turn the corner. Here comes Ottawa. Here comes New Jersey. Here comes Detroit. LA is the closest to turning it around of the teams that have bottomed out and still, like, they're a maybe for playoffs. It's hard to turn around. So, yeah, Sammy, I like a lot of their guys, and Power does move the needle in a big way. Still not ready to say that that's a playoff team next year or whatever. But, boy, they're Who's their prospect goalie? Is it Levi? Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen? I don't know. Did Devin Levi?
Levi?
Yeah.
Isn't he regarded as maybe
but he's going back.
I know, but an up-and-comer.
Yeah.
Or maybe one of the best prospects out there.
Yeah. I think he's a highly praised guy.
That's really what they're missing right now. But when you factor in how, again, the pressure on a young general manager in Kevin Adams was on the trade, and how Tuck's come in and really started looking like a captain here, you know?
Can I just tell you, Jack Eichel in a huge game for Vegas last night was kind of bad. Like, cruddy. Like, his fault for the OT goal against the worst line for Vegas last night. So, yeah, they're, I'm not saying Eichel's not whatever, but
I just sent off an email to our wonderful Sportsnet stats. I probably should have done this before the show, but our pre-show meeting today was not exactly a thrilling one. But anyways, I digress there. I want to know what the record is since they traded Eichel, because it just seems like every time that they've played the Leafs, there's this freedom they play with. I don't know, it's just because they're out of the playoffs, they're not playing with anything. For anything, they just kind of can play freely, but it just feels like there's a weight that's been lifted off this team. Like you said, they added in Tuck, who seems to love playing there. He's from the area. Krebs, a good young prospect. I really do like the direction they're going in, and it's not I think there's a chance that they're going to be really good in the next couple of years. Same with Detroit. Like, this division that's already a monster, has two teams that really seem like they have some promise with the Red Wings and Buffalo as well.
The other thing that I really noticed live last night, so close to the ice, was they snapped the puck around last night. They passed the
Buffalo
puck
did?
well. Buffalo,
Yeah.
extremely well. And I've said this all season long. The Leafs, in my opinion, one of the best forechecking teams in the league when they're going.
Yeah.
Right, which has been a good portion of this season. But they are not a great passing the puck team. They don't snap it for me. They can skate with it. They like their, give and goes on occasion, but they don't snap the puck around. They're not short on the one touches. The touch passes. I saw a lot of that out of Buffalo.
Yeah.
I didn't get the same feel out of the Leafs, not just because of this one game, but there is a different style, and it may play into how they've had success against the Leafs, is that you have to pass extremely well on Toronto. And I think Buffalo's been able to do that.
Yeah, the Leafs skate well. I guess the only counterbalance to that would be moving the puck faster than the other team can move their feet, so that could make some sense. Leafs have some guys who are kind of straight line guys, Mikheyev, Engvall, Kampf.
But they like to skate with the puck.
Yeah.
They don't, it's not give and goes. It's not touch, move your feet, touch, move your feet. Buffalo did that last night against Toronto. That's not Toronto.
So what that leads to for Buffalo is a team, Keith mentioned that clip that they're actually a pretty good possession team. Last night at 5-on-5, the Sabres had the puck in the Leaf zone for over 20 minutes, and the Toronto had the puck in Buffalo's end for 16 and a half. It was like 3.5, 4 minute difference that Buffalo had more possession time than the Leafs. And that's not something that many teams do to the Leafs.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the reasons why, is the way they're going about it. Maybe it's physical play, but the teams that give Toronto a harder time are teams that hang on to the puck well. Buffalo making strides in that department too, I guess. Although we have said that, not to get too excited about teams that have success once the season's over. They're rarely getting other teams' best games. So I don't know how excited to get about Buffalo yet, but
I'm not excited.
No,
I'm worried.
Yeah.
I'm worried.
So
I don't think they're going to be a powerhouse by next year, but I think the Leafs window here to be competitive, as long as Auston Matthews there's a long period of time that the Leafs are going to be competitive in this division. I don't think we're talking about this being 5 years down the road that the Buffalo Sabres are a competitive team. I think it's going to be in the next couple of years where Owen Power gets a couple years. I don't know. I just got it. My spidey senses are tingling with them. Ever since they got rid of Eichel, they've looked like a different team to me.
the other vibe I got from the game last night, there were people honestly upset at the lack of energy or the effort to want to win this game.
Sure.
And I'm actually being the positive guy in the room going, boys, it's long season, right? It's a long season, and there is a tendency to get tired or lose your focus, and they're like, I think they were, they're kind of insulted, and I'm like, boys, it's okay.
Do you mean the people around you in the stands?
Yeah, they were pissed off.
I have to say, I've been to a lot of Leaf games this year with work. I've sit up in the press box beside Joe and Jim, and I've been to multiple dogs this year. Like bad performances from the game where I've left the game being like, sure, glad I didn't pay $600 to sit in the lower bowl for that effort. And last night's another one of those. Like the first game back with fans was against the Sabres. They lost 5-1. This team, when it's bad, it's bad.
Well, it's bad because they play one way, and it's skill and talent, and they not going to overpower anyone. So when they don't have their A game in that regard, it can be a little bit like, all right.
So Kyper, where you're like, oh, don't worry, our Leafs will figure it out, boys. Our Leafs are fine.
I said the exact same thing, except I said Sam's Leafs are fine.
Yeah, well, they're fine.
They're going to find their way through it just fine. So, Sheldon making the commentary on these sort of games, why don't we listen to him talk about how they're, costing themselves points, because this is a thing that they do.
Yeah, it's puzzling. It's been puzzling all season, right? I mean, games like this is why we're still competing for home ice, in the first round. And we've played so well, for most of the season against most of the teams in the league that, nights like this are also holding us back from competing to win our division, right? So that's the disappointing part. But I think we've talked about before, we've played really well against the playoff teams, the teams that the high quality teams in the league. So there's an expectation we'll bounce back, and so from that sense of it, it's easy for me to push past this one, but doesn't make it any less frustrating tonight.
I actually love that from him. I think that's a good way to kind of coach him up a bit after a dog game. Like the game means nothing, right? Like we've been sitting here talking about it means absolutely nothing. But I think it's an
They lose Game 7 on the road.
Bingo. It means something. And I think it's an opportunity for him to kind of be like, hey, guys, wake the F up here. Like, you can't cost yourself more points if you want to have home ice advantage in the first round. And I think it's a kind of a good way to kind of say that to the media.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I agree.
Nine to go here.
Yep.
So all of a sudden you're getting into the short ones here. So where do you go now? My first thought waking up today, if I'm Sheldon, Kyle, or Brendan, is we got to get Jack feeling good.
Yeah.
Everything is pointed in the direction of these last few days being maintenance for him. Nothing more. There isn't a sense that he re-injured anything. There isn't a sense that there's any type of concern. This was just Jack probably playing one more game or having one more appearance than they were comfortable with last week. Of course, that goes back to the Florida game.
Right.
So this was strictly maintenance.
Okay. So you're confident then we will see Jack back in the next game? And
Keefe was asked post-game, and he said the plan is for him to start on Thursday against the Washington Capitals.
All right.
Now, it's just not enough to say he's in. How many games would you say out of 9 he would need, and how many games would you like to see Jack's A game?
Yeah.
That's the next step.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how close this race is in the final few games and how much they really want to push for home ice. To Sammy's point and your point, home ice is not worth nothing. It's definitely worth something. So, he maybe 6-3 comes to mind when you say there's 9 games left. I'm sure we could map out. I think there's still 2 back-to-backs left. I know, Sammy, we got killed in the group chat once for this, but
I'm not talking about back-to-backs.
I think
just because it's the worst beating of all time.
I think there's a couple back-to-backs.
There's
so
2 left.
You'd get Shalgren in those, get him one more start in there somewhere. But, if you're playing for home ice in game 82 against the Boston Bruins, not the worst thing in the world to give Campbell that game. Is that too much? 6 starts in the final. Now we're looking at 16 days. I think that's pretty good.
You got him versus Washington. You're going to take 1 of 2 on the weekend between Montreal and the Islanders. You'd probably would you give him 2 out of 3 against Philly, Tampa, and Florida? Because we got back-to-back Florida teams next Thursday and next Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to want one of those.
Yeah, I would probably do it against the Panthers and not against Tampa.
Play him against the Panthers?
Yeah, and you do the sort of old Belichick thing with Tampa. They're a more possible first-round matchup. Don't show them Jack. Let them.
On the other hand, Florida's the best goal-scoring team in the history of the league.
Yeah, and then you
give the last 25 years.
Campbell a test him out there. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's kind of bad that teams like Tampa Bay and Florida and Boston, they kind of got pushed at the end of the year.
Oh, it's awful.
Because
that stinks.
Right? It sucks.
I think the league was trying to make it exciting down the stretch, right? They're going to go head to head. The standings are tight. And instead it's like, well, now we know the teams are playing each other. They're just kind of like fighting over home ice and who gets who. And yeah, I would have liked to seen Florida before March 29th or March 27th, whatever it was this year. That was kind of crummy.
Where are we on Shalgren, boys? Because I'm watching that first goal, Pozo's goal, and it was a bit of a whiff. It was like he tried. I don't know what he was trying to do. He whiffed. That's the best word I could use.
Yeah,
he went to go catch the
puck.
Good
shot. Kyle catches it, shoots it. It doesn't have a ton of mustard. Great placement, but NHL goaltender should catch it.
Yeah,
felt
the same way.
And it's one of those things. The difference between a starter in the NHL and backup or a starter in the AHL. It's not that great, but it's that. It's that one. It's the one that squeaks through you here and there. I have lost confidence in, not that I ever really had any, but there's a spark there where you're like, could this guy? Oh, right. He's, 25 and an AHL starter for a reason. No disrespect to the man personally, but he's played 8 NHL games.
Could you strike lightning in a bottle? Can you find it, right?
And I don't think they can. I think the bottle's broken.
And has he done enough to bring up and warrant a potential backup situation next year? Absolutely.
Sure.
He's in the race. He's in the running.
Yes.
Depending on
Joe Wool's help.
He's done enough to say, yeah, you're in the conversation to be our backup next year.
Yeah.
But in no way is anyone going to have a ton of confidence if they have to go to this kid.
No. But if they have to go to this kid, they've lost. I'm already on that. It's you're down 2-0 in the series already, and it's a great team you're playing. You're probably cooked. So it really, for me, and I think for everyone would agree, this is Campbell or it's not going to work. How you manage Campbell if you have to play Källgren in the most horrible of circumstances, playing him in both back-to-backs for whatever reason, do it. If Jack needs a little stretch of days during a back-to-back, it's Källgren. Just make sure Jack is in the best possible condition come game 1 on May 2nd.
I go back to what Mike McKenna said to us I think it was maybe off his first career start or second career start, where he said he's like a lot of Swedish goalies, that he has really good position. He's really good positionally. He's in the spots, but just not, the hands aren't there. The pucks bounce off him. He doesn't catch pucks. Like, guys beat him clean on the gloves. Like, I feel like he's in good positions, but guys are just able to kind of snap it past him clean, which is not something that you want when you're playing against NHL competition. That's just, Mike McKenna said it early, and I really do notice that about him whenever I watch him now.
Yeah.
Tons of personality on the show today. We're going to welcome Brett Hull. If anybody can have a sense of what it feels like to be scoring 60 plus, 70 plus.
What was he on about last time we had him on?
I don't even
It's
remember.
this guy. So we'll welcome in Brett Hull into the program in about 20 minutes. And our good buddy Anthony Stewart is in the building somehow, some way. We will drag him in here in the second hour.
Yeah. Do our YouTube cameras work that way? He's just going to have to be off camera, I guess. It's fine.
I think they can zoom it out a little bit.
We'll get Stu on camera for everyone.
So where are we on the D pair? And there was a sense that there was a comfort zone now. Giordano's very comfortable. Labushkin's very comfortable, and yet last night, a bit of a setback.
Yeah,
I thought they all struggled in their own way. Brody, I was not impressed with TJ Brody at all, but collectively, did anybody stand out, or all 6 of them?
I'll start with Labushkin. Sometimes he gets his boots stopped. Yeah. He just gets stopped, like totally stopped, where you're like, hey, you got no momentum, often in defense, you have to go with the play, like gap up so that you're not trying to adjust late. And sometimes he gets caught in a spot where he hasn't done the work early and he's just caught in the middle. And I thought that happened on the goal where they went up to Thompson. Was it the first goal or the second goal? Sorry, they went up to
second.
Thompson, and Labushkin's already backed on top of him, and didn't think he was very good there. At other times when the puck goes in the corner, he'll do you remember when Zach Hyman used to pin a guy against the boards and then turn backwards and kind of seal the guy off and win a puck? Labushkin gets sealed off. He gets on the wrong side of bodies sometimes, and the guys can win their way out from there. So he was the worst defenseman on the team by any fancy stats. 20% Corsi last night, which is terrible. So yeah, Labushkin for me, tough night. Liljegren is the one that everyone today is like, Liljegren, way to go, Liljegren. And I just got to say.
+2, him and.
Yeah, they were +2.
Statistically, they were sound.
They were. And they played a lot of minutes. Liljegren scores. I don't need Liljegren to score. I don't. You don't need it. The Leafs score a ton, and he's always so far up the rink. He's so far up in the ozone.
But that's that's Sheldon's game right there. That's
I know,
what
but
he's being coached.
But Riley does that too.
That's why it's a terrible
So
pair.
it's just like,
I don't like. I like him with Gio. I like him a lot
I
with
like
Gio
them
because
against the
of that.
25th best team in the league, the Buffalo Sabres, or the 26th best team in the league. I don't need that against the Florida Panthers or the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
So that's my worry is that like the stats, which I know they look at for the Leafs, the fancy stats, shot attempts, possession, whatever, way in favor. Liljegren, top of the class for the Leafs. Terrifying for me about the way it goes. He also starts in the ozone a lot, and he gets a lot of favorable situation. A little bit, yeah. So I'm terrified still. So yes, he's been wonderful. He's looked very confident. I like him way more than I did a month ago.
Yeah.
I just get nervous.
That's fair.
Thank you.
You mentioned Brody there.
Yeah.
And when the Leafs first signed Brody, was a Friday night, and I used to do a show with Brent Gunning in the mornings on Friday mornings. So we came on that morning and talked about Brody signing with the Leafs. And we got a ton of texts from our because we were on the network. So we got a ton of texts from our Calgary listeners saying, be wary of the brain farts, be wary of the turnovers, be wary of this. And after his first season, I was like, what the hell are they talking about? Like, I haven't seen any of that.
Yeah.
This past, I don't know, maybe
It's crept in a little bit.
2 months,
Yeah.
month. I'm seeing it a little.
The best
I
I've
still
seen
like
him as a
him.
Leaf is when he isn't that noticeable, if
Yeah,
that makes
and I'm-
any sense at all.
It makes a lot of sense, and I have been noticing him recently.
Yeah.
And he's been jumping up a lot, but I'm glad to hear that I'm not the only one
Yeah.
that's kind of noticing that, because I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. He's been lacking a bit for me too. But I feel like they're trying to sort out these pairs. Giordano and Lyubushkin struggled together last night. I wanted to see them together because I thought maybe as a third pair, but Giordano's just been so good for Liljegren. Like, I really like when they're together. Brody has been with Riley and helps Riley do his thing. So I don't know. Yeah, but I didn't like the pairs last night. Didn't work for me.
Also, for the first time, I didn't like the penalty killing either.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How come?
I just found them
I know they got
tired.
scored on,
I think one of the goals, Engvall and Kampf actually got kind of stuck in the mud in the neutral zone. I think that was they scored 1 or 2 on the power play last night. Buffalo.
The Pozo one was power play.
Was it Skinner?
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
Might have been Skinner, but that's just a lack of energy for me.
Yeah.
Right? That's just a complete, and it was throughout the lineup. I guess it's a good thing that they all had stuck in the mud itis together.
Yeah.
But it just, those 2 guys in particular who have been great all year, and you give them
they did have 2 power plays, yeah.
you give them a mulligan on last night.
Yeah.
But just overall, that lack of sharpness, not there. And the other one, guys, I wanted to bring up as we get close to break here is Bunting. 17 games now without a goal. And, it's hard to say that because he's been still very prominent in what Matthews and Marner have been able to do, but just the inability to put the puck in the net right now. And how long do you keep it going with those 2 guys, or do you back them off? Do you try to protect them a little bit here? 70-plus games for a guy who's not the biggest frame out there, and you're playing against Buffalo, who the big boys, and physically stronger.
Yeah.
He's not physically as strong as a good portion of the league. So what do you do?
Nothing. I mean,
Leave them?
Well, I'm not saying what I would do. I don't think they're going to do anything. Like, I just think they see Bunting, and by they, I include Matthews and Marner in this, as a part of what's happened for those guys this year. Mitch Marner is going to be a top 10 Hart Trophy vote guy. Auston Matthews might win it. Bunting has been the complimentary guy, right? Hyman's out, and this guy's been Hyman plus in some eyes out there, and not mine necessarily, but I think a lot of people see what he's done as he's got that offensive awareness that Hyman didn't quite have, and he's helped these guys get to that next level. I just don't see any world where we're going in Bruins Leafs game 1 and Bunting, Kampf, and Mikheyev are line, or, something like that. Like Bunting to me is just going to be there. It's gone on too long for them to change course now.
I think they can do something and mask it around a general feel of the last 9 games here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Healthy scratching, a Riley, an Auston Matthews, Mitch Marner became a lot more of a reality after last night's game than before last night's game for me.
How come?
Well, because of a bad loss last night. And if things are rolling, then there's the concern about disrupting a rhythm or a confidence or, don't make a big deal out of it. Just, ride it. Like, just sit back and enjoy it in many ways. But if last night's going to be indicative of a few more nights like that, then disrupt the lineup.
Yeah. And you know what I think will definitely happen is watch for that in the back-to-back games where they say, we just don't need to to overextend anyone. These guys play 20 minutes a night. I don't think you'll see Simmons and Spezza play back-to-back for sure. Maybe Tavares would get a night at one of those points, right? For back-to-back, 30 years old, whatever he is, 31.
I don't think they'll ever take Matthews out. And I think they should, but I don't think they will. I
Just
think
why?
The
just
goal
not even the goal total, but it's just the optics of it. It's hard. Obviously they wouldn't healthy scratch him out of, performance. He's got 58 goals. He's one of the best players in the league. I just think he's a horse type guy who wants to play every game. I just don't necessarily see him or them doing it. And I know you're not saying to take him out because he's playing bad. It's just because you want to get some rest, getting ready for the playoff run. But I don't think that he'd ever do it.
It's just a reset.
Same with Riley. I just don't think those guys will come out. I don't.
And
do you think so? You really think they will do it? Or is this something that you want them to do?
No. Let's watch Thursday night against Washington. Let's just see if the energy comes back and they're a lot sharper. And, they've obviously gone through a few things in the last 48 hours to rectify a few things. Let's watch Washington and go into the weekend. It's Islanders in Ottawa.
Yeah.
You can pull somebody out of the lineup for no other reason
than you want to.
Just because you can, and you will.
But you know what? If they do that, let's say they sit out Mitch Marner for one of those games or Auston Matthews for one of those games, then they have to go to the press and say, we thought they died out in playoffs last year and we don't want to have that happen again.
You don't owe them a thing. Maintenance. Scram beat it. That's what you tell the media. Maintenance.
Yeah.
You can say, "Oh, well, boys, maybe enjoy your Saturday night in Toronto. We'll go to Ottawa. We'll see you on Sunday against the Islanders at home."
We're on to Cincinnati.
I don't know. I could see that.
And the other one, 0 for 5. Power play.
I know.
0 for 5. Montreal. Like, this has been the best power play. And yes, you're going to have lulls again. That's okay. But I'd probably say in the last, 30 attempts, I'm not sure it's firing much more than maybe 22, 24% for something that's been above 30.
Yeah.
So just something to keep an eye on.
I was thinking about, Sammy, the comparison of the Raptors being a team that, one, people overlook, and two, is just gigantic and difficult to play. I feel like Buffalo does that to Toronto, where it's like, it's supposed to be an easy game for Toronto, right? They're going to go in. They're a bad team. Craig Anderson's 603 years old. Matthews is going to shoot a couple in. And then they're just big and they're playing hard. You've liked Granato, the work he's done, right?
Yeah.
They're annoying and big, and they're not rolling over like they're supposed to.
I love that cross-sport comparison from you, Bourne. I think that's an excellent one. And just before we go to break, a quick non-hockey sports story this afternoon. And absolutely an affront to baseball. Dodgers pulled Clayton Kershaw with a perfect game after 7 innings, and he's at 80 pitches because it's a pitch count.
Because the early season stretched out yet, trying to keep him under 90.
Clayton Kershaw. Is that not
analytics? That
honestly makes me sad and sick at the same time. That upsets me
chance
deeply. He's never had one.
History.
I mean, it's a no-hitter, whatever. He's had a no-hitter before.
But a perfect game.
A perfect game. 7 innings. 80 pitches.
Did he have a
actually, if I'm the player,
frown
I'm
on his
pissed.
face?
I don't know. I didn't see any video. I just saw Twitter. I just saw it on a tweet.
23 perfect games in history. Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody will remember the 24th. I get it.
Clayton Kershaw is one of the best pitchers of this generation. Has a chance at a signature moment, and they
That's
take him out.
just
Sickening.
ridiculous.
So I just wanted to bring that up with you guys because it made me so mad. I had to tell somebody.
Okay, we're leaving Auston Matthews in to get 70.
Yeah, I agree.
Just to screw.
Playing 30 a
Just to
night.
screw the LA Dodgers. This is the way we do it in hockey. Dodgers. All right, we got Brett Hall coming up.
All right.
What are you going to ask Brett Hall?
I don't know. What's it like being cool?
Sammy. Okay, without cheating, how many goals did Brett Hall score in Penticton in the Junior Hockey League, BC Junior Hockey League?
How many games?
57, I'll say.
Let's go. A lot. I 150.
Goals?
Yeah.
Oh, now I
it's a
feel
hat-trick
horrible
plus
now.
a game.
What world are you living in that he's going to score 3 goals a game? Why did you
It's
just
Brett
say
Hall.
300?
It's Brett Hall.
Oh, my God.
What's he? How many did he score?
105.
Still pretty. Oh, I was close. Only 45 off.
All right, Sammy. Now we're going to break, and I feel like I've let everybody down. It's only 105.
Yeah, that's it.
Brutal.
All right, we'll go find Brett Hall and hear about all those 105 from the man himself, Hall of Famer, Brett Hall, after the break. You're listening and watching Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet's YouTube channel.
This is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
All right. Hopefully we get Ollie off the golf course.
And we did.
If anybody knows what Auston Matthews is going through right now, it's our next guest, Brett Hull. Once upon a time, the greatest goal scorer in modern history. Holly, how are you, pal?
I don't think so. That's still number 99 for a little while.
He's not on the show right now. You are.
I appreciate that, Dan.
First of all, how's life treating you? Where are you these days? And how is the golf game?
Nashville, and spring in Nashville is wet, but it's good. I was just up at Pine Valley in New Jersey for a little bit of golf, and down in Florida, so
Nice.
I'm getting to play.
Nice.
Yeah.
And watching a little Auston Matthews on the side, and just your overall thought about a guy now going into the 60-goal range again, something that you've been accustomed throughout your career. And, Holly, I'm just thinking, how many rule changes since 2004 if we go to, the clutching and grabbing, or pucks over the glass for a penalty, or goalie's lack of handling the puck. Everything's been geared for these guys to get into a place that you were, over 20 years ago.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't look at it that way. I mean, the game evolves, the players evolve, and it's not only Auston, but I kind of scroll through Twitter a little, not Twitter, but Instagram a little bit, just to kind of look at stuff, get entertained when I'm bored. And
we do too.
Yeah, that's what it's for.
I'm really kind of impressed that it kind of reminds me back in the day. It's like everyone's going for their 100th point or their 50th goal or their record number of points in their career so far. And, Johnny Gaudreau got 100, and I don't even know who else. I mean, it's, the guys in Florida. And I mean, it's good for the game, and it's entertaining for the fans, and that's really what it's all about.
Holly, how focused on milestones were you during your biggest goal-scoring years? Were you aware of the milestones and trying to get to them, or still focused on team play? Like, what would Matthews be going through as these sort of next milestones loom?
Well, I think it's a little bit maybe different today. I keep up on like the points and goals and assists. I have no idea, you've got to be some sort of genius to figure out how to get into the playoffs now with wild cards and whatnot, and divisions and conferences. And so I'm not really sure where the Maple Leafs stand, but I would imagine that that's got to be a part of what he's thinking about is, okay, who are we matched up against right now? Because, there's probably less than 20 games in the season to go. And, it's like, can we get to a better home ice position? And, if we keep climbing in the standings, we play a team that's maybe not as good as, being first is really, I think, big in today's game, because it's, the other teams that are right with you are really good as well. And probably it's an evenly matched. And that's what I don't like about the playoff system. It's Pittsburgh and Washington in the first round, and I mean, you're losing one of two really good, entertaining teams right off the bat. So I think it should be 1 through 16 on both sides and go from there.
Holly, take us back a little bit because you weren't this can't miss prospect when you first started out of Calgary. And, of course, you had the big trade, and it certainly helped Calgary win a Stanley Cup. But then you go to St. Louis, and in your first full year, you score 40 goals. And at that point, you go into the following season, and is it, I think I can get 50. And, like, you get 72. I mean, at what point did you say, oh, my God, this is kind of going someplace I never thought it would go, or it actually did go where you thought it could go? Like, what was that mindset like, that discovering that you're not a 40 or 50 goal scorer, you're a 70 goal scorer? When does that happen?
Well, yeah, well, I'll tell you exactly how it happened, because, Brian Sutter, without Brian Sutter, I probably would have, I think I could, after doing it, I think 40 goals was pretty legitimate. There's not a chance on earth I thought of 70 or 86. And, after that season, I don't know if they still do it, but you have the end of the year meetings with the coach. And, I was going in there, and I was thinking I was going to get this big pat on the back, and wow, you're so great. We made a great trade. What a, boy, I can't wait to next year to start. And Brian Sutter looked at me, and he lit into me, and told me that I'm only scratching the surface, and that you have no idea how good you can be, and he just. And as a player, you could take that one of two ways. You could go home and sulk and go get your buddy and go have some beers and go, what a jerk, I hope he gets fired. Or you could do like I did, and I looked back and I called my buddy, and who would have been Chaser at that time, right?
Yeah.
And I said, I can't believe how good this guy thinks I can be. And I went home that summer, and that's all I could think about was, I'm going to do this. And it was so motivating for me. And then, of course, I was very fortunate to play with, Peter Zezel, Doug Gilmour first, then Peter Zezel, then Adam Oates. And that obviously really helps when you have those guys playing with you. But, it just, and then the first thing was the opportunity. I never understood why Calgary drafted me in the first place when, I looked up and they had like 13 NHL caliber right wingers on their roster. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be difficult. And so I'm pretty sure that's why the trade was made, because they already had from Hawk and Lube to Joe Mullen to, Tim Hunter and Perry Berzan and Lanny McDonald. I mean, the list would go on. And so that's probably why the trade was made. And all of a sudden I went from, playing a couple games, sitting out a game, point on the second power play, not playing a regular shift all that often, to all of a sudden you're the main focal point of a team. You're the number one power play guy. They're making plays for you. Because of my ability to shoot, and then so that's also a big help. It's hard to succeed when you aren't showing any confidence. And as soon as I got to St. Louis, they said, we made this trade and we're going to make you the focal point, and that certainly helped.
The 2 years that you did score 70 or 80. You mentioned Zezel and Oatsy, and they were 25 goal scorers. You didn't have a secondary 50 or 60 goal man, did you? Not until we got Brendan. Yes. Yeah, but even those
that was awfully nice to have a guy like that with you as well.
Well, interesting, because where did that put the pressure on you to put the puck in the net? And did teams now saying, hey, you take away Brett Hull, you take away everything? Are teams like Boston or Tampa Bay looking at Auston and the Leafs going, take away Auston and we control the Leafs?
Well, that's like saying you could take away Ovechkin, right? You got quality players, Kuznetsov and Backstrom. You got Marner. There's other, pieces that can do it, and maybe the game goes from, 5-2 to 3-2, which, I always hated when, after games I didn't score, I would be pissed off, and people thought it was like sulking and selfish, and it really wasn't. It's my job to go and score goals and to create offense. And if I don't, maybe we lose 2-1, or maybe we have to, fend off a late power play to win 2-1. But if I would have scored, it's 3-1, and it makes the game easier for the whole team. And plus, that's really my only skill, right? So that's all I felt I could contribute. And I guess I could have worked at other parts of the game, but I really only wanted to score and create offense. So, luckily that was I got to play a lot of my career when that was okay. And then all of a sudden, Jacques Lemaire came to the league, and it was like, oh my God, are you, it's like the substitute teacher who isn't as fun as your real teacher. I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing to our game? And then everyone, it's a copycat league, right? And then I signed as a free agent with Ken Hitchcock, and I mean, we won, which is incredible. But if I don't change my game, I'm out of the league. It's just, you had to sacrifice offense and play that team game, that dump and chase, the chip and retrieve, keep the puck out of the middle, safety first, funnel the puck towards the crease. I'm like, I asked Ken one day, I go, are we playing soccer or hockey? And so it was, but when you win, it sure makes it, because that was the number one thing. After I had personal success, I wanted to win a Stanley Cup, and I guarantee Auston Matthews, he wants to bring another Stanley Cup back to the Maple Leaf, and then that's when he's the hero of all time, right? Yeah. And so that's got to be his number one goal, and I guarantee he has the support of his teammates and the fans. So in today's game, anyone can win. The team that won in St. Louis a few years ago certainly wasn't even close to one of the best teams that franchise ever had. But it was the right team to win that year.
Yeah. So you mentioned that Brian Sutter kind of gave it to you after a very good season and pushed you to new heights. Let's say Auston Matthews goes to sit down with Sheldon Keefe after this season and says the same thing. Hey, we think there's more from you. You can do more. Would you want to see him take the advice to try to become a more well-rounded, complete guy, defensive focused? You mentioned you made some adaptations, or would you want to see him lean into the goal scoring side of things and just continue to do the thing that really makes him different and shoot it in the net?
Well, I'm pretty sure he focuses on the other aspects of a game way more than I did. Mm-hmm. I would lean the other way and just give him tapes of Ovechkin and just go, do what this guy does, because he is. I'm doing this TV show for ESPN called Details, and I just got a clip. We're doing Alex first, and so I just went over a myriad of goals that he was involved in this morning, and he just gets it. Like he works hard. He's in position in the offense or defensive zone, and then teams are stupid and defensemen are dumb, and we know that because that's why they play defense for the most part. And you can't turn the puck over when Alex Ovechkin's on the ice. And I don't know how many goals were just because of stupid plays by the other team and bad defensemen that's Alex Ovechkin. Like, why are you turning your back on him? And he just slides into the opening, and he's got Kuznetsov, Backstrom, Carlson, Oshie, and then you've got the big kid Wilson out there creating havoc in front of the net, and he just like I don't care what anyone says. Nobody can shoot the puck or ever will shoot the puck as good as Ovechkin. I mean, I watched this today, and I was just, I knew how he could shoot, but some of them, like he barely even looks like he's moving, and the thing just hums, and it's all accurate, and where you have to shoot high. You can't score in this league shooting low.
That was you.
I mean, it's incredible, and do that.
That was
Well,
you.
I got to tell you, I think I was fortunate too. I think most of the goalies stunk when we played, Kipper. there was some good ones. There was some good ones, but you look at these guys; they're all 6'6" and 6'7" now.
And athletes. We put the fat kid in that.
Like Alan Bester and Chevrolet and Panger and Potvin wasn't that big. Eddie Belfour was a great goalie, and but we got to play against John Casey and Don Beaupre. I mean, nothing against them, but they certainly aren't.
No.
Waugh, Brodeur.
No.
They are not Vasilevsky, and these guys are just.
Yeah, they smoke and had too much coffee because they stunted their growth, I think, at a certain age.
Yeah, so that's another thing. These guys, you get 60 goals in today's league. Sure, there's probably a little more room and a lot more power plays maybe. I don't even know if that's a real stat or not, if there's more or not. There's got to be. I think these goalies, that goalies now get hit more than they make saves.
So under 10 games to go for the majority.
Still way too big.
Who's that?
Equipment.
Sorry.
Yeah, the equipment.
Yeah, it's still huge.
It is. It's still tough to score, man. At the end of the day, right?
Right.
Yeah.
One more.
Right.
Holly, in terms of the last 10 games, the majority of teams just closing in on the season. We're talking about whether or not you give certain players now some time off or even a night off. What would it have been like for your team in St. Louis if they came up to you on your stretches of 70 or 80 goals and they said, "Hey, take a night off"? What would have your reaction have been?
Never.
Doesn't even let me finish the question.
Yeah, I hated everything about the game except for playing the game. The meetings, travel,
a man after my own heart. I love it.
I mean, all I wanted to do was play, and every time I got to put the uniform on and go out, that's when it was fun. Practice, like back, you remember when there was no days off. Now these guys get mandatory days off. We would go Mini, Detroit, Toronto, fly home, and the coach would go, okay, 2:30 practice. And it's like, what? It's amazing that guys had careers that lasted as long as they did. And now it's like, hey, I get phone calls that's like, hey, you want to go golfing from like Ryan Johansson? And I go, well, you got no practice? He goes, oh, no, day off today.
Aren't you in the NHL still?
Yeah, I mean, we never had days off. And
it's so true.
Yeah.
It's so true.
Oh, my, it
was work.
My first...
Like, what the things Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux did with those sick numbers they put up, flying commercial, never getting days off. I mean, those numbers they put up were just sick because it was hard. It was hard to fly home and go to the rink and unpack your ice cold bag and get dressed and have any motivation to do anything in practice. And, the coaches were just so Neanderthal, and they had no idea. Rest and nutrition, and
they do 30-minute practices now. 30 minutes.
Sleep.
In the old St. Louis Arena, we had one of those universal gyms from like 1970, and it must have had an inch of asbestos dust. I mean, you take a look at all the St. Louis Blues players who have died of cancer, and I guarantee it's from the old arena.
Yeah.
Damn.
I mean, it was just awful.
Oh my gosh.
The training facility was zero.
Ugh.
The best thing we had in our locker room was like the sauna. That was awesome, but that was it.
So now we've got
That
sleep.
was basically our after workout.
Yeah.
Let's go to the sauna.
Now we got sleep doctors, right? And, I don't know if you saw this story. Sam, our producer, just mentioned to us that Clayton Kershaw had a perfect game today, 7 complete innings, and they pulled him for maintenance, I think. Like, that's a different world right now.
Yeah, Louis Oosthuizen, he travels with his own bed.
What do you mean? Is that true?
Yeah, he's got a bad back. He travels with his own bed. They all sit there and talk about that. Even Tiger said, my team. I'm like, what? I never had a team. I had teammates, but I certainly didn't have a team. My team was the Anheuser-Busch guy who dropped beer off at my house.
Hey, if you had a team, you would have scored 105 like you did in the BC Junior Hockey League.
BCHL.
105 at 80 or 90. Didn't you say I should cool it a little?
I don't know. And what's really funny is I had quit hockey before I went there for my first year, and I only played 1 year of A hockey. Once I got to the ages when it actually mattered, like Pee-wee and moving on up. And I was like, and that's why I quit. Nobody wanted me. And then my buddy, you've heard the story, my buddy called me. I said, okay, I'll come. And it was weird taking that year off. It was like, it dawned on me how to do it. And all of a sudden I could score at will. And I'm like, what happened here?
I'm going to make $100 million. I'm super slow. I'm not tough at all, but I can score. But it works.
I mean, it's so weird. I'm waiting for something bad to happen to me because I was so I mean, it's like
sold your soul.
No.
With the devil.
Get that thought out of your head. Hey, Holly, we got to go to break. I hate this part.
Come to claim me yet. Anyway,
I hate this part of the show where I got to say goodbye to you, man. That was awesome.
Well, hey, let's do this more often.
Oh, you got that. You got that right. The great Brett Hall on Real Kyper and Bourne. Hey,
Thank
Holly,
you, guys.
thanks for doing this, pal.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
All right.
I want him to get 60. How many does he need? 5, 4?
2.
He only needs 2. Beautiful.
Yep.
10 games. He can do that.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
All right. Brett Hall, everybody.
Thanks, Ollie.
Oh, my God. He is a riot. An absolute riot.
He's killing me. It's tough to keep a beat on all the things he said. I have things I want to comment on, then they get lost in the next wave of whatever it is he's saying.
I'm just killing myself.
That could be guest of the year right there.
Oh my God! Honestly, Alan Bester catching strays.
Oh, no. All these guys, Don Beaupre's like, what I do?
Felix Pot's
pretty good.
I played with them.
Felix Potvin's legitimately one of the most beloved characters in Toronto sports history. He's like, he's tiny.
They are giants now, though. His whole point, they're athletic and they're giants.
It's true, though. Scoring 60 right now is absurd with how high a level the goaltenders are. Every night, they're monsters. And they're not as good as, listen, there's been different eras, but they're just way bigger than they would ever have been. So,
all right.
Man, that was
like,
funny.
what kind of stick was Brett Hull using? He scored 105.
He was Easton. He was an Easton guy.
But, like, he had this slap shot that, to me, is like Hull scored all his goals on these slap shots.
Yeah.
But, like, was anyone taking slap shots with those sticks? And, like, how was he so good at shooting the puck with
him and
those
McGinnis
sticks?
were the two guys in my era
that just figured it out.
That, like he said, bar in.
Like high slap shots with those wood sticks, it seems like impossible to me.
Like, if you saw, even the bend, the curve on Al McGinnis's stick, I'm like, how could he know where it's going?
Yeah.
And there are probably some nights when it
didn't.
It didn't. It ended up in the first
that
3 rows.
Coffee curve on their Sherwood PMPs
but not many.
was
but not many at all.
That was my favorite stick.
The PMP?
Yeah, Sherwood. But then I remember they went to the aluminum, where it was just like you were using a bar of metal.
Yeah.
Why was that a thing?
They were lighter.
But I know, but it's like you can't flex it. I'm a stick, a fanatic, and I remember Gretzky had the offset curve. Remember that?
The offset was awful.
Awful
blade.
Yeah.
I don't know if he used it much in the NHL.
No, but he had like an offset blade. Yeah. Anyways.
was a two-piece.
All right, should we go to break or
Yeah, I mean,
anything you got to do?
No,
we got,
I mean,
Stewie, is he in the building?
Yeah, I saw him. He poked in behind there. I think he's going to join us here soon. So looking forward to having him in.
He's not hiding, is he?
Stew in the stew.
No, he's not hiding.
He's not hiding.
No,
Didn't
he's
you
not
tell me he hid sometimes?
In the sauna, yeah, so he didn't get
What?
sent down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it never worked.
Come on.
He'll tell
Come
us
on.
about it.
They
found him.
you should have hid in the weight room. They would have never looked there either. I'm just kidding, Stewie.
People catching strays all over the place today.
All right, Anthony Stewart after the break. Listening and watching Real Kyper and Bourne.
Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, we got our work cut out for us for the rest of the show to match Holly.
No, we can't.
Okay,
It's one of those things you just can't. You can't even try
you can't even try
to live up to that.
We'll officially mail it in from here on in.
Well, I mean,
Anthony can match Holly.
think so?
Aye.
We'll lean on him.
Come on. There he
We'll
is.
find out.
There he is.
Here, I'll get him all
Speak
set
of the
up.
devil. Anthony Stewart, former NHLer, current Sportsnet hockey analyst, coming in after Brett Hall. Stewie,
How's it going?
We're good.
you got to follow Brett Hall. We can't do it. We admit it. We're not that good.
Yeah, we just
How
had
are you, man?
Good. How do you score 80 goals in a year? How? Or 70 goals? How?
He says he had a team of people, namely his Anheuser-Busch guy who would drop beers off. That was his.
That was his team.
Like I play with Ole Jokinen, and I always tell the story when he showed me his paycheck every 2 weeks. And he was like a 38, 48 goal guy where
Yeah.
you couldn't even say nothing to him. He walked around in a robe every day. He'd chirping the coaching staff,
Was
chirping
that,
the management, and you couldn't say nothing. And he was a god, and that's only 38 goals. I cannot
Right.
imagine
So,
walking around the room at
well,
60 goals.
Was that a prorated $5 million a year salary that paycheck you were looking at?
Yeah, so that was Florida, so there's no taxes.
Yeah.
So that was a good like 260,000 every 2 weeks.
Every
and that
2
was
weeks.
at $5.5 million.
So-
So could you imagine now?
When I got traded to Hartford, I think Pat Verbeek was the highest paid at 1.1 million, and I saw his check. It was in the stall, just sitting there,
Yeah.
right? And it was like at the time, I think maybe about $62,000,
Yeah.
and I'm just like,
What?
at that time, I'm like, oh my god.
I was just
Now
looking
these
up.
guys are $250,000 a year, right?
Every 2 weeks.
Or $250,000 every 2 weeks.
I was just looking up Hull's career earnings. What do you? I mean, I can't find the exact total, but
50, 60.
yeah, I'm gonna figure this out. Sammy, maybe you can give that a look while
So
we're
my
chatting.
brother, his contract with Colorado was a 4-year, $16 million contract, $4 million per year. And we didn't have a fax machine, so we had to sign it, and we had to go to Shoppers Drug Mart to fax it back. And you should have seen the lady's face working at Shoppers Drug Mart.
Fax this contract. So what are you doing later?
No,
yeah.
It's always nice.
Yeah.
I used to, back then I could have my checks automatically deposited.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm going to the teller.
I'm going to
And,
the
yeah.
bank.
And I wait for the cutest one available, right? I like to deposit my 2-week paycheck.
Quickly here. I played with
2 weeks.
I played with Jay Bomeister, and he used to drive me to the rink and pick me up. And he drove like a 98 pickup truck, like GMC pickup truck. And he asked me to grab something out of the glove compartment one day. And like 9 of his paychecks just like fell out. So he had 9 paychecks that he didn't even cash yet.
Just sitting in the
Yeah, he's
glove
like,
box.
I'll go to the bank one of these days when I get it. So 9 paychecks. Just
Probably
sitting there.
millions of dollars. And
I'm like, you have to cash these. These expire after. Yeah, I'll get around to it.
I'm like, if one of these went missing, would it be a big deal? I just, I don't know if you saw the thread from Chris Pronger today where he talked about, let's say a 5-year contract for $6 million, a $30 million contract, what an NHL player today actually gets to take home. So from $6 million a year, he ran through all the expenses and escrow and taxes and agent fees and
30
housing.
cents
Yeah.
on the dollar.
He was saying that maybe $2.5 million of 6 would be what a guy would be left with for investments, which is obviously a ton of money. But his point was just that people see 6 and think it's 6, and it may be a little different than that. I mean, I'm sure over your career, your total career earnings was not reflective of what you left the NHL with.
No, and I know the common fan and common folk don't want to hear that, but it's not a lot of money. And a lot of guys, there's a select few that can decide that they're going to retire on a beach. And I always talk about Nathan Horton. He'd be like, if you don't see me and you come back and I'm gone, I'm on the beach with my boat and I'm drinking pina coladas. But there's only a select few because you have all these expenses. And a family like myself.
Average career is 4 years.
Yeah, where, I only played 260 games. When I signed my NHL contract, I put $200,000 in a down payment on a house. And then I ended up in the minors the next year, making, $75,000. But my mortgage and my house expenses in Toronto are $7,000 a month. So I can see how it, players can get into trouble. And the one thing that saved me was my brother making a lot of money, saying, well, you know what? I'm relieving myself of this debt. You're going to start paying for the family. So I think there can be a better job in just teaching kids financial literacy because, for me, I didn't really know the concept of money. We grew up on, $2,000 a month from the government. And I'm like, I got $1 million. I'm rich, but it doesn't go a far way. So I wish there could be more programs out there, but just teaching these kids because everyone thinks you're going to play forever, but you can be the best of the best and you're still done at 35. And if you have $5 million in the bank, you still got to live for the next 50 years. So you got to do something.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my takeaway. Got to do something.
I give Chris Pronger full credit because here's a guy that's probably career earnings of maybe 125, 130
I think
million.
the most in NHL history, 110 to 125.
Not right there. And yet he's not doing it because he's rubbing anything in anyone's face.
No.
He's actually educating people to a greater understanding. And
So-
I give him full credit.
Can I get a loan, Prongs? I need a
so
loan.
so I give him a lot of credit because he's not saying like anyone wants pity. He's just saying this is people have it wrong. But I will say there's like a little bit of a disconnect when someone makes as much money as Pronger has for a long time and what they think is normal. And he's like
111 million in his career.
111 for Pronger. Yeah. And one of his things is like, and then you got to have a car. So there's 75 grand a year. And then he just like carries on to the next tweet. And was like, well, hold on now.
75 or 35.
We drive a car and it is not a $75,000 machine. But, I get the point he's making. And it is interesting to see that curtain peeled back a little bit.
In the meantime, we'll slug it out here because, and we're pissed off that Rogers took away the free coffee in the in the foyer. And
I don't know how it is on
on
the radio side, but the TV side, Sam Cosentino came, brought a brand new Nespresso machine. We're drinking coffee
That's
over
out of
there.
Sam's pocket, though.
We got
That's the way
pizza
it should
we got
be.
pizza pockets over there and Kit Kat bars. Yeah, we're living life over there. That's why I'm so tick.
Hey.
The Kit Kats.
So,
That's great.
leading with Auston Matthews' run and what to do in the next 9 games, rest him, let him play it out. Brett Hull said not a chance he wanted to come out of the lineup.
The players don't want to come out at this time of the season. And that's usually when you get hurt, when you take your foot off the gas and practices are easier. I think this is where you almost ramp it up where, if you're going to peel them back a bit, maybe get them into the 17, 18-minute mark and get maybe the fourth line. I know I'm the fourth line advocator of the program here, but find a way to get them some more minutes, get them more responsibility, see where they fit going into the playoffs. So, but for Matthews right now, he's chasing history and, we're talking about Ovechkin and how great of a goal scorer he is, but for Matthews to be doing it now in 2022 post-COVID, and it just seems every time he's on the ice and every time he's touching that puck, where's it going? How many goals is he going to score tonight when he had 2 against Montreal? We're like, he might get a double hat trick here. So let him play because I think that momentum can now go into the playoffs where if he's playing at this level, a good 2-way game, he can take over a series. I know it's about goaltending and specialty teams, but if Matthews is playing at that supreme elite level, he can win a game or 2 by himself, regardless of who you're playing.
Yeah, no, it's a tough call. And like, do you think the milestone stuff is important though? Like, if let's say they decided they did want to sit him out for a game and he's one shy of Ovechkin's 65, which a lot of people kind of think is like the next one. Could he get as many as Ovechkin's peak season? Should that take precedent? Do you leave him in just to chase a record or?
Yeah, because that game off, I think that really takes that killer instinct away from him, right? So like I said, get him, give him, 7 shifts of period, but don't really now, you don't have to double stack him now on the power play for 2 minutes, put him out there only for one segment because this, and I know we're talking the Toronto market, but this is special. It's special. And if this was anywhere else, it would be give him the Hart Trophy yesterday. And, for a guy that, I have appreciation of scoring goals and the release. And, we're talking about a couple years ago when Mike Modano said, easy, Stu, who are you to talk about this shot? Like this release and the ability to score goals, like it's special. And as a former player, I'm still a fan. And I'm still a fan of how he's doing it. And not even getting excited, just the casualness
Shoots
of coming out. Hey, yeah, I scored a goal. Cool, man. What's next?
Yeah.
Last night, any red flags, any concerns, or is it just one of those? They're 70+ games now, little fatigue.
I have one concern.
They're cramming games in because of the COVID. 14 games last night. What did you see last night, Anthony?
I have one concern, and I'm going to show JB a picture here. This is on the 4th goal. Where is he going?
He's going for a change?
Where is
that
he
the
going
idea?
for a change?
Yeah.
And those details on some of those goals last night, where there's the lack of the back checking, there's not that compete in the D zone. Guys are sort of looking around. Those are the basics that you need to have shored up at this point of the season. So I can say, I heard Sheldon Keefe's comments, but, I think that's from not a lack of preparation, but as a whole, I think they're taking their foot off the gas. So they're probably saying, you know what, we're going to focus next to Florida's next week or something like that. So I'm not concerned, but those are the details now. If you have the Buffalo Sabres coming in and, owning you in O-zone possession and playing heavy and running you out of the building, what's going to happen now when you're playing, the track meet champions of the Tampa Bay Lightning or the Boston Bruins who've been there? So that's my only concern. But when this team is on, and they've been on a lot more than they've been off, they're one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. So there's no panic because they're still 4th, 5th in the league. But, those games, I remember if I was on for any of those 3 goals, it's a big deal where you're getting brought into the office. What's going on here? You can't be skating away, going for skates, especially at game, 74 or 3 or whatever it may be.
So they've got to where they've got because of their offense and skill and, all the talent of this team. Matthews is doing what he's doing. You've seen Zegras obviously is having his weird year. You're on the ice with young kids today all the time. Do you see a lot of this trickling down into the way that your kids want to play, the evolution of offense in the NHL?
I was on the ice yesterday, and I'm coaching the 2013s next year. So I'm coaching 9-year-olds next year.
Oh, that's young.
And there was a kid out at the skate, and he brought his little brother who was like 6 years old. Like, he was below my kneecaps. And he attempted the Michigan, and I'm like, there's no way. And then after the game, he's like, did you see me almost do the Michigan? And I was like, I'm like, there's no way you can do it. He's like, yeah, I can. I did it last week. So I'm like, at 6 years old, these kids are doing it. And I'm amazed at just the skill, the pure skill that these kids have. And, I talk to agents and I talk to teams, and, I'm coaching minor midget this year. We just fell short of the OHL Cup. I'm like, some of these kids are going to play at 18 years old because they are that tremendously skilled. So, yeah, they have to learn the good two-way game and all that, but just the pure skill where, I'm supposed to be a skills coach, but I'm transitioning out of there because I'm like, I'm nowhere close to
really
what these kids are doing at full speed. And, one of the kids right now, potential first overall pick, and Malcolm Spence, like, this kid is going to play in the NHL. This kid is going to be World Juniors. And I can tell at 15 years old because just the skill. And we're talking about Michael Misa, who might get exceptional stats. Like, these kids are stars, and I'm seeing it on a day-to-day basis, ice level. And I go from training, Matt Nichols pros to training the OHL kids to training the minor hockey kids back to back to back. And some of the kids are more skilled than right. They can go through the danglers. They can do the Michigan. They can do a Michigan with their knob. So they can flip it up with a Michigan with the stick reversed. Don't ask me how, but it's amazing. So I understand it because I made a living having to play that rough and tumble game and pucks in deep and fight and do all that. But I have a true appreciation for the skill of these kids because it's the next generation. I can't fathom. They're going to be laughing at me in 10 years, looking at my highlights. Look at Stewart's gear and look at that. He can't even skate. And I was a pretty fast skater. So I can't wrap my head around the game in 15, 20 years based on what I'm seeing now with these kids.
Anthony, coaching these kids or, spending so much time with them, you speak of their skill. It's a physical thing. But what about mental now? What about, a 15-year-old with exceptional talent? Can you see already that, yes, physically they may be there, but mentally they're not?
And that's an issue where now if I'm Hockey Canada, I'm not trying to point the finger. You got to now work on these mental health training because there's some kids now that if they don't get exceptional status, it kills them.
It's failure.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with not being Connor McDavid.
Right.
Do you know how good Connor McDavid is? Like, I've seen it. He's one of the best players to ever strap on a pair of skates. And I saw Connor McDavid in a ball hockey tournament game at 13 years old. And this kid this kid's going to be one of the best players to ever play the game. So I think there's just too much pressure, too much emphasis on winning and being the best of the best. And, I go back to my days. I was a star in junior. I scored 35 goals 3 years in a row. And, I was drafted first round. And, we were playing against Cal Clutterbuck. And we're laughing at him, punching him. You're a plug. And look at him. He's still playing. Yeah. Right. So everyone wants to be the Mitch Marners, but what's wrong with being a Zach Hyman or a Cal Clutterbuck where these guys had great careers? Mm-hmm. And my brother at this time in his minor midget year wasn't even playing hockey. He was playing football. and he was a first-round NHL draft pick, played 700 games, where I was the minor hockey star. I had 100 points in 30 games in my minor midget year, 7th overall, 25th, only 260 games. So if they can focus on just being the best version of themselves as opposed to, I want to be the next, it's tough. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a kid to be the next, because if you told a 15-year-old kid what it takes to really be the best of the best, going to sleep on time, working on the skills. I was laughing at Eric Stahl. What are you doing going on the ice so early, working on one shot from the top of the circle there? But when the game started, that puck was going in the net. Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm in the showers on my way to Bates Battaglia's sports bar there. So I love talking the minor hockey stuff, but again, just focus on what you control, having fun, but being the best version of yourself.
Can I just ask one more on minor hockey, because I find this stuff fascinating, is the message. You got to do it twice. You got to do it once to your player and another one to the parents.
Yeah.
Great point.
And if you really want to get the message to your player, the 23 hours that you're not working with your kid, the parent hopefully is sending the right message.
Yeah. And I have a lot on my plate, and I'll give somebody a $1 million idea, because I don't have the time to do this, but interview every single parent of all the star players the last 15 and 20 years, and just ask them about development and pressure and their, what they did to get their kid to the National Hockey League. And I guarantee you can draw 10, 15 parallels per story and write a book about it. And this could be the parent's guide to creating the next hockey player. But none of it was, I wanted my kid to be the best. We played in 15 tournaments in a weekend, and we were doing that. They had fun, they trained. Yeah, they had a skills coach here and there, but they were a multi-sport athlete. You know how many kids are the best hockey player I've ever seen, but they don't know how to bounce a ball. They don't know how to run track. They don't know how to jump. I'm with Matty Nickel 2-3 days a week. He's got to teach these kids how to jog, how to jump, right? And I'm sitting there like, he's like, these are your kids? I'm like, yeah, but they don't know how to even put their arms properly when running. And it's like, when I played volleyball, I played basketball in high school, I ran track and field, I went to OFSA. So I think we can do a better job of creating athletes. Yeah. And that's something where the focus should be on as well.
For sure. And I think that serves you well in like those panic moments when you can't follow the team structure and you have to do something for yourself or make your own decisions, is being able to be athletic. And I fully agree with that. So then it kind of brings me to a similar question, which is like, what do you think about players who are stars their whole life in junior and then are asked to play a different role because it's the NHL? So I'm thinking about Matthew Nyes has been, this guy for the Leafs and, a star in college, and they want him to come here and be a part of this. But if he comes here, he's not going to play with Matthews and Marner. They're going to probably put him on the fourth line, or at first, I think, and say, you're big, you're physical, whatever. You had that experience. What's it like when they're asking you to play a way that you've never played before?
Well, I think the player dictates that. But if I'm Nyes and I'm his agent, I'm asking, well, what happened with Brooks, and what happened with VC, and what happened with Trevor Moore, and what happened with all these guys that were, brought in to do that role, and they're no longer here. So there's no real pathway for some of these prospects to step in unless you're Marner, Nylander, or Matthews, which these guys were top 10 picks. So, what happened to Nick Robertson? And that was a player where, there was a lot of expectations. I know he had his injury, but you got to be able to say, hey, where is my role? Where am I? You're going to put me in a position to succeed? Because if I'm him, I'm coming into a high pressure situation. If it doesn't go well, they're probably going to be pointing to me. So I don't even want this right now. Yeah. But I think for him, it's you're coming out of college where you're only playing 30, 35 games now to step into a pro situation where it's 82 games and it's the grind of the travel. I think you need a summer to really, really prepare to get ready for that because, for me, I was a junior star, but it doesn't translate. I started off as the fourth line and I'm looking around and I'm not fighting LaRock. I'm not fighting Brashear. Yeah. I'm not fighting Jody Shelley and the boogeyman looking at me saying he's going to break my teeth. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And I didn't do it enough, and that's why my role slowly diminished, where I ended up from fourth line to the press box to, two-way contract. So it's a tough way, but I think the organization and part of the player development is this is your role. We're going to ride with you. We're going to give you 20, 30 games to figure it out, and let's go from there. And that's why for a player like Nick Robertson, give him his 30 games, put him in a top 9 role, see what he can do, then assess afterwards as opposed to in out of the lineup, up and down. And that's what happened to me. I was traveling from Rochester, flying in an hour before the game. Hey, you got to go and do something out there, kid. I'm like, I still got airplane legs. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I'm only playing 7 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've done that too, Kyper. And I was trying to think of there's some other like guys who played for the Red Wings. What's his name? But junior stars who they're like, all right, if you're gonna stay, here's what we need you to
McCarty
do.
had a great career, and he played
Right.
all aspects. He could score. I mean, he's a transition
Yeah.
where not a third or fourth. Sometimes he could find himself playing with Yzerman on occasion, and he
Yeah.
can skate. He was a first rounder, but he was tough as nails too. He could bring it any which way. But Nyes, he knows that. You mentioned he's not going to come in here and play with Auston or Tavares, but he will next year.
Yeah.
And he knows
Do you think
that.
so? Yeah.
Oh no, 100%. And
Yeah.
he'll have a better opportunity. Mikheyev will be gone by then. Someone will have outpriced the Leafs.
Yeah.
There will be more openings for him next year. He's staying this year. And there's I think it's kind of this whole kind of University of Minnesota thing. There's a second
Awesome place to go to school.
There's a second rounder from LA. LA Kings can't get him either. So they're all in cahoots, eh? They're coming back next year to win a championship.
Yeah.
And he'll know this time next year, maybe he has his national championship and he steps in right away.
I
with
like
the
it
Leafs
when
this
the
time
players
next year.
have the power, not the organization.
Yeah.
I like it.
What's rare? Like you got to imagine these guys have been out having drinks, arms around each
Yeah.
other after too many. Like, let's just do it. Let's come back. Like.
Hey, and some of these families now have more money than
Yeah,
True.
That's
And
another
actually,
thing.
I wonder
More
if they get
money.
paid in
Oh, well,
college
right?
now.
It's not-
NIL.
it's
He's
not a
leaving $1 million
motivation,
on the
right?
table. It's
Oh,
like, well,
big
that's
deal.
his inheritance
Yeah.
when he turns 28.
Oh no, that's what his dad made last week,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that we all have different reasons for being motivated, but his isn't right there right now to be a Toronto Maple Leaf, and that it's good for him.
It is,
having
yeah.
that strength to say no.
But what's wrong if he goes down and has to play 15 games for the Marlies next year? What if
Well, we had Brett Hull
What's
on.
wrong
I'm
with
looking
that?
at his career stats.
Right.
He scores 105 times or whatever in junior, scores over a goal per game in college. Then he plays in the American League.
Yeah.
He scored 50 times in the American League, like 20
He looked like
years
a
old
player
or
like
whatever.
Cole Caulfield, who came out of college, had some success, goes in, probably doesn't train
Yeah.
as much as in the summertime. You have to learn what
But-
it's like to be a pro.
But
without-
Brett wasn't 19
Yeah.
when he played in the American Hockey League. Right?
How old is Brett?
I think Brett would have
21?
been
20?
20,
Yeah.
22
Same.
maybe.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's those are two or 3 years to a 19-year-old are huge.
Yeah.
True.
Right? And we're not talking about a senior.
Yep.
We're talking about a freshman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that you're in protective mode right now.
Mm-hmm.
You want to play 20 years? Don't worry about the first one at 19.
Right.
Just make sure you invest.
Yeah. So
For
how are you?
stronger stock.
How are you?
got
Whatever
5
Chris
minutes.
is
You got
selling,
5
I'm
minutes?
buying.
What do you want? You want to talk about Kane and Hartman last night?
I do want to talk about that. Yes. Fascinating. Sammy, you still available back there or what?
I'm here.
All right.
So this is one
You
of those.
play the audio of them flipping the bird? Is there an audio?
I don't have the audio.
We do have other audio, though. We have great audio.
We have audio of them verbally flipping each other.
So Stewie, this played out like when we played, right? One guy goes after another guy steps in for another guy. The next thing you know, everybody's in, everybody ropes, everybody rides. I loved it from both sides.
Yeah.
A Minnesota angle and an Edmonton angle. I saw no wrongs from either side.
No, I saw the fine, and I'm like, do you not hear what the camera and the mics catch probably 4 or 5 times, like live
Yeah.
to air, where you hear what they're saying?
Right.
They're saying a lot worse than flipping the bird, but to be showing that emotion at this time of the year, that means it's going to be a really, really good emotional playoffs where guys are now starting to ramp it up. And, say what you want about Evander Kane. He's dragging this team into the fight where it's a 5-0 game or 5-1 game. Like that could have easily been a nothing burger where guys just do the old, hey, let me check for my wallet, give them a little bit of a bump, and that's it. But no, this is real-time hockey right now. So kudos to Hartman as well. Again, but I think the refs now, you either got to break it up or let them go.
Just let 'em
and that's
go.
the thing. When you're sort of half and half, that's how some guys get hurt. And you remember back in the minors, some guys, the ref had you and they got loose, they would pop you, they'd pop the ref. So I'm a little bit worried about that just for the player safety aspect.
They are told if do not go in alone,
Yep.
which the official did last night.
Yep.
Yeah, he's
You-
trying to break up
You
2.
cannot
Yeah.
go in
Just
alone.
get out of the way
You
at
are
that point.
you are at the greatest risk of being hurt.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
You're not protecting
it's their call. Like they've sent messages to these guys. Don't do that. Let them go. But ultimately, if they think that they can keep two guys from fighting, and I don't know, maybe it's Bettman that wants them to go in there, or
doesn't want one guy. But
I don't know,
the Simmons Maroon situation. That's why they gave them 10s. Hey, we're setting the tone right now. We don't want this to get into a certain situation because those are two big boys, and some of those guys can hurt you really, really bad.
It's not going to be ridiculous, though, right?
Be like the Hulk Hogan, I'm going to get you, brother. No, it's someone might go night-night, and I don't think you want to see that.
Yeah.
So I think we got a clip. We'll go to a Kipper's Clipper on Evander Kane.
Kane first.
Kane first on Ryan Hartman.
Yeah, no, it took all 5 guys and couldn't bring me down. So, it's something I definitely would have liked to get loose. Let's put it that way.
Came over the top with the Superman punch there. You don't see that too much in the hockey.
Yeah, that's these little guys. They want to act tough, but they wait for the linesman to come in.
I wouldn't be the first guy to wait for a linesman to come in.
So that's great. And then they go to Ryan Hartman to get his take on it. Let's hear what Ryan Hartman had to say to the media.
Yeah, we don't want him in there. He gave Krill a shot from behind on a very vulnerable spot. It goes to show we had 5 guys in there. They didn't have one guy in there to help him. I don't think any of their guys are going to defend him.
Today's a good day for some of the Oilers to say, yeah, we'll defend him.
Yeah, but I think that's great that it took the headline away from, hey, the Edmonton Oilers just had a stinker. It shows, hey, at least they had some fight. And if I saw the situation correctly, I think it was everybody going after Yamamoto, and that was Kane stepping up for his teammates, and Zuccarello going after him. So I like the passion. That's the hockey. Those are the games I liked being in because it kept you engaged.
Yeah.
Kept you engaged, but it keeps that momentum going into the playoffs. So if they end up playing, it's going to be a great, great series. And say what you want. I always talk about Evander Kane. He is a great player when he's focusing on hockey, and he can change around a game or a series as well.
Yeah. Hartman doesn't want that action, though.
No.
No, but Hartman's smart enough to know that, Evander's right. I will get my ass kicked here, and it's okay to, have that wolf mentality. Wolf pack mentality.
Yeah, that the whole team. He's like, we had 5 guys in there. No one wants to stand up for him.
I don't have to go. I don't have to go and stand up to him by myself. But if 2 or 3 guys are with me, then that's fine. That's okay. We know you're not a fighter, or you're not a guy that has a reputation for throwing bombs in a fight. It's okay. But doing nothing is way worse than what Ryan Hartman did.
Hartman plays like that, though. He's a pain in the ass.
To me, it's the perfect scenario. If you're the Oilers, you love what Kane did, and if you're Minnesota, you love what Hartman did.
I go back to, we had a brawl one time with Atlanta versus Boston, and one of our guys, Freddie Meyer, just absolutely hammered Lucic, and I was on Lucic's back, and he got up and he sucker punched Freddie Meyer, like dropped him, and I was on his back, and I didn't fight Lucic, and I was like, I got lost in the commotion. I'm like, if I do not fight and beat somebody up right now, this is going to look really, really bad on my in front of my teammates. So I went and I grabbed Andrew Ferentz, and good thing I ended up, putting a good licking on him, because I wanted to show that, hey, I know this happened, but hey, I'm a team guy as well. But it's, fighting a guy like Lucic,
it is the
tough.
bunting thing where you're kind of picking your spots a little bit, right? And you can, which, you're showing that you're willing to push back and whatever. But there's a point where I think it's like, but I don't actually want to do that.
And it's not just the other team watching this. It's there are 31 other teams around the league that also watch games and highlights. And, we knew who the bluffers were when we played. And you're not scared to let them know.
Yeah.
So at some point, you may have to get your nose in there.
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Getting beat up, like that happens.
Well,
and that's not the first time. Guys get beat up all the time in junior and minor hockey. It's
career ended.
Yeah, but I mean,
face first.
But you
puddle of blood.
No, but at the same time, does anyone ever bring that up other than the fact that they respected you for stepping up and answering the bell? Right?
100%.
No one's ever going to say, "Oh, Kip, hey, great job, you stepped up, answered the bell."
Hey,
right?
100%.
And sometimes you see teammates go in there in a situation where they know they're going to lose and they got your back, and you're like, I know you took that beating for me, and
Message
I appreciate
to the young
that
kids. It doesn't hurt when you get beat up. It hurts afterwards.
Later.
Like, that helps.
Now,
not much.
Is for the Leafs, there's really that one game in Winnipeg, but they haven't had too many of Hartman Kane moments. To me, maybe 3 or 4 during the season would help you.
Yeah.
Come playoff time, I don't know, but I don't know. It's just it's not their makeup to see scenarios like last night's involved with the Leafs.
I think it's related to what we're talking about with the evolution of the game and skill and the way kids are brought up. I think this is all tied to Troy Terry and to Zegras and how they don't think this stuff is part of the game, and they haven't seen it as much, and it's just a different generation.
Go play down in Rochester against Syracuse and bingo. Go play there a couple games. You'll find out real quick how it is.
And one team's missing the playoffs, and one's scared to death they're going to get knocked out again in the first round.
Yeah. I mean, hey, listen, that's it is interesting to know how much a part of the NHL it's going to stay. And I do think it's not going away entirely. It's a physical sport. It's an intimidation sport. Like, it's always going to be a small part.
Was reminded of that, wasn't he?
Well, by
everybody.
Yes, but not everyone. There's a lot of people who think Zegras is right. This is the way this stuff is old news.
But there was he called for the league to step in and make suspensions. That never happened. No support for Zegras from his own organization. No coaches, no players stood up and said, I'm with Trevor Zegras on this. That can't happen. That was super embarrassing. I'm shocked that the league isn't doing anything about it. Did anybody say that?
Did nothing happen? There was nothing.
That's not a bigger
Beagle?
story.
Yeah, you know, did Beagle not get suspended for that?
Right.
Nothing happened there?
Right. Like, where is that from?
But they got good veterans over there, and I guarantee you, Getzlaff probably pulled him aside and said, "Hey, kid, like this is the way that things work."
I don't know. I don't agree with that.
That was done.
I don't think that Zegras said it. I think it was a little bit. It was excessive. I don't know if it was embarrassing, but it was a bit
It's
down
not
5-0. He's punching a guy who's not fighting him. I don't know.
Yeah.
Fine with it?
From my understanding, and I sort of got the inside scoop, was they thought that what's his name was hurt really, really bad.
Terry
was hurt really, really bad, where broken orbital bone. So they were
after
stuck,
the game. That's why
they're stuck in the emotion of that.
Yeah.
So give them that. When your teammate's hurt, you really want to go to bat for him, and But again, I'm waiting for the rematch, whenever that may be.
Right.
The 35th of February.
Yeah, it may be then, literally,
At
for
Cops
Beagle.
Coliseum or wherever it may be.
Stewie, Vegas done enough for you to convince them not only are they going to get into the playoffs, but they could be dangerous, say,
Stone's
Colorado.
back, right? Stone's back, so that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But is Leonard the guy?
Yeah.
I'm looking at that overtime goal last night, and it wasn't an amazing move that they did. And he just sort of flopped down. He just looks a little bit tired. And I just go back to, did they make the right decisions on personnel and trading away guys with
Fleury,
with high social equity in the league? And sometimes that comes back to bite you.
So
right?
we were talking,
Fleury,
did they make the right
Schmidt,
decision?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah.
And I know the cap hit, and they were probably gearing up to, figure out their cap situation. But I think they picked the wrong guy, but they were invested in Leonard because he had the term. But find a way to move some other parts out. But, for me, if they don't make the playoffs now and they're struggling and they're going to be trading some more veterans, it's going to be tough to draw some guys over there in the coming year, just based on, you're trying to win every single year and you're sparing no expense. Some guys need a little bit more security, and they want to know that they're there for the long haul. So they should have kept Fleury, I think.
They're in tight. We talk about the old bet at the end of the show. Vegas right now is plus 120. So they're to make the playoffs. So Vegas, the actual odds maker, sees them as less likely to make the playoffs, more likely to miss the playoffs. I actually just wrote an article that's on Sportsnet.ca now on Vegas's chances heading into of getting in, and they're up against it, but they've been really badly hurt. I didn't realize how badly hurt they'd been this year. I looked into man games lost and all that. They've missed the most man games in the NHL with the best players. This is the first time they'll have Pacioretty, Stone, Leonard, Martinez. They got their squad here. If they get in, they could do.
So have you written off the Canucks?
Well,
First, there it is. Have you?
yes, they've got a 9%
Yeah.
chance of making the playoffs.
But you
according
win
to,
2 games. What does it go into? It goes to
Yeah.
now 17. They win another game,
Yeah.
right? So
So
those
who's
switch.
who's most vulnerable
The
in the
Kings.
West?
I
The
think
Kings,
it's got to be the
LA Kings.
Yeah, I know they got the win last
Do
night.
they not have a fairly decent schedule now?
softest schedule in the league. They have
Yes.
they play nobody down the stretch. They play the King. They play Colorado tonight, and then they don't play another
Columbus,
playoff team the rest of the
Anaheim,
year.
Chicago, Anaheim,
Oh,
Seattle.
those are dangerous games, right? Just
That's
ask the
true.
Leafs.
Yeah, true. There is that element of like, hey, these teams are no good, but LA's got a much softer schedule. Nashville, who is 96% chance of getting in, has the best teams in the league. Calgary, Colorado, Calgary again. Yeah, they've got the most brutal schedule. Dallas has a pretty tough one. Here's one thing: the Oilers in Vegas play head to head. You know that could get tight too. So Oilers not out of the woods just yet, but quite likely out of the woods.
1-0 Dallas.
Over Tampa Bay.
Okay.
5 minutes left. They score.
What
Is that what it was? I didn't even see the highlights.
Rupe
I was-
hits,
What happened to all that offense?
I don't know. Tampa now. I mean,
Running on fumes.
right.
That's what an executive told me. They're running on fumes.
Just trying to get in and then find it once
Even
more.
Vasilevsky does not like. There's some of those goals going in. I'm like, that didn't go in before.
Right.
Ah, Leaf fans are just running now to play them in the first round.
Yeah.
Which
Sammy, you okay with that?
Sure. I just start the playoffs, boys.
don't care who it
It's
is.
just too late in the season.
And we got to figure out the standings for Brett Hall.
Hall's on the show. He goes, takes a magician to figure out who's going to make the playoffs. Well,
So stupid overtime loss columns and
yeah,
that's what's screwing
regulation
everything
wins
up.
is the first tiebreaker, and I don't know that they ever like go real public when they make those changes, but regulation wins is the first tiebreaker now.
Stewie, thanks for your time, man. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thanks for
Great
coming in.
insight.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Go Leafs, go.
All right. And our thanks to Brett Hall, Hall of Famer. Great insight on what Auston Matthews is going through. To all of you watching and listening on our YouTube channel, thanks. Really appreciate the support. And on our podcast, how about a rating and review? Let us know how we're doing and what we can do to improve Sammy's take on the Leafs. We're back tomorrow.